Dear students, welcome to Insight Academy. In today's session, we're going to have a discussion of Indian Polity and Constitution test paper of your GS Prelims test series. As always, the questions have been taken from the syllabus which has been given to you in schedule. And this test paper has 100 MCQs. First 1 to 80 questions are from the syllabus of Polity and Constitution. And question number 81 to 100 are from the current affairs for the period that has been mentioned in your test schedule. We will discuss all the questions from 1 to 100 one by one. So all of you should have a copy with you to note down the main points. So not only the right option, but also the reasons behind that option being right and why other options are incorrect. All of those dimensions will be discussed. So hopefully you will learn many hundred points during this course of today's discussion session. Let us have a look at question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding Constituent Assembly. So Constituent Assembly, the body that drafted our Constitution of Independent India. And it was elected in 1946. Constitution got ready, in November 1949. It actually came into force in a full-fledged manner on 26th of January 1950. So keep all those points in ready, different constitution committees, different leaders associated with Constituent Assembly, who was the president, vice president, all those kind of questions are often asked by UPSC. Let us have a look at this question particularly. It was established as a result of the negotiation between Indian nationalist and British government. That's correct. It was a part of transfer of power into Indian hands. So when Indian national movement emerged under the leadership of Congress and other organizations, Indians started demanding transfer of power. Initially, it was the demand of Swaraj. Then it became Purna Swaraj. And by 1940s, the pressure on British was so high that they could not afford to deny this Indian demand of complete independence. So when British accepted the demand of complete independence, they started agreeing to the setting up of a Constituent Assembly to make constitution for independent India. And you know that for the first time, this arrangement was agreed upon through Cripps Plan. So Stafford Cripps was sent, Cripps Plan agreed to the modalities, and then Cabinet Mission carried the idea further. Under the provisions of Cabinet Mission Plan, this Constituent Assembly was elected or was set up. Indian Constituent Assembly was mainly formed on the basis of provisions of Cabinet Mission Plan. Cabinet Mission Plan was in 1946, May 1946 to be precise. So first and second are correct. The members of this assembly were directly elected. The members of this assembly were indirectly elected by the members of provincial legislatures. So British Indian provinces used to have legislatures, or today's Legislative Assembly, that time it was known as Legislative Council. The members of those legislative councils elected the members of Constituent Assembly. So it was a system of indirect election, not a system of direct election. There was no use of universal adult suffrage. It was indirectly elected body. There were some members from native states, they were nominated, and the members from British Indian provinces were indirectly elected. So here 1 and 2 are correct, third is incorrect. Always pay attention to instructions, because in many of the questions you will have which of these are not correct or incorrect. So one slight lapse of attention could lead to a wrong answer. So you have to see the correct one. So 1 and 2 are correct, third one is incorrect, so option is A. Look at question number 2. With reference to the fundamental rights mentioned in the Indian Constitution, consider following statements. So one of the parts of Indian Constitution deals with fundamental rights, part number 3. So part number 3, article number 12 to 35. The rights to equality ensures that citizens can live freely without facing any discrimination on the grounds of religion, caste, sex. Perfectly correct. Equality says that a state shall not discriminate among the citizens on the basis of their religion, caste, sex, or place of birth, etc. So this is a part of right to equality. Right to freedom includes the right to move freely and reside in any part of the country? Definitely Article 19 says this. Article 19 has right to freedom. You know, there were 6 freedoms originally, but one of the freedom, right to property, was taken away. The Constitution of India prohibits all kinds of forced labor and employment of children below the age of 14 years, not 18 years, 14 years. Look at Article 24 of the Constitution. Article 23 prohibits trafficking and begar. Article 24 prohibits employment of children below the age of 14 years in factories or other kind of hazardous employments. So this is 14 years. Point number 3 here is incorrect. Which of the statements are correct? So here also 1 and 2 are correct, third one is wrong. So option is 1 and 2 only. So like this you have to keep reading with attention. Most of the questions are easy. If you have gone through NCERTs or any other basic book, the question paper is from NCERT primarily. So if you have gone through the syllabus or the books which are prescribed in your test schedule, you will be in a position to do most of these questions correct without much difficulty. Look at question number 3. Consider following pairs: socialism, communism, and capitalism. These are 3 fundamental politico-economic philosophies. Socialism says a state will be welfare state. The state will take steps to carry out redistribution of wealth or resources in equitable manner. There should be nobody extremely rich and nobody should be extremely poor in the country. Communism says no private ownership of any kind. Every resource shall be owned by the state. Actually, communism was talking about ownership of resources by community, but the way it happened in practical sense, the way it was seen in Russia and other countries of communist system, we found that this was ownership of state. In this system, all the property and economic resources are owned and controlled by state. So this is communism, not socialism. Under the system, the economic resources are allocated to all citizens by a democratically elected government, that is socialism. So 1 and 2 are incorrectly matched. You have to see correctly matched pairs. Capitalism means free market economy, private ownership, profit motive. All these are the dominant features here. So this is correctly matched. How many pairs? So only 1 pair is correctly matched. Option is A. Question number 4. With reference to the joint session of Parliament of India, consider the following statements. So joint session, I hope you have read. Joint session is organized as and when bill passed by one of the houses of Parliament is repeatedly rejected by other house of Parliament. There is a difference of opinion between the 2 houses of our Parliament. So if that difference of opinion persists for 6 months, then joint session can be summoned by President of India. Article 108 of Indian Constitution provides for a joint sitting of both the houses of Parliament. Perfectly correct, 108 is the constitutional provision. It is summoned by President of India, definitely correct. President of India summons it and the joint session is presided over by Speaker of Lok Sabha. The rules of the procedure of Lok Sabha are applicable to the joint session of Parliament. Always remember, it's not Rajya Sabha, it's not any new rule. The rules of procedures of Lok Sabha are applicable to the working of joint session. The quorum required to constitute a joint session, quorum means the minimum membership present for a legitimate or legal meeting. Required to constitute joint sitting of is half. So what is the quorum for Lok Sabha? And what will be the quorum for Lok Sabha? The same quorum is applicable to joint sitting, and quorum is always 1/10 of the total strength of the house here. Now in this case, house is both the members, both the houses combined together. So 10% of the total strength of both the houses is the minimum membership required to present for a legitimate meeting, not half. So first and second are correct, third is incorrect here. Number 4, the Speaker of Lok Sabha presides over the joint sitting, definitely not. Any other person, Speaker of Lok Sabha presides over the session of both the houses or joint session of our Parliament. Which of the statements are correct? So 3 is wrong, 1, 2 and 4 are correct. Option here becomes B. Question number 5. The right to freedom of religion is an important pillar of secularism in India. Secularism in India says everyone has the right to practice, profess any religion. A state shall not impose any restriction of any kind on the followers of any religion, subject to, of course, some limitations of morality, public order. In this regard, consider the following articles of Constitution. Some articles are given here. How many of the above articles of Indian Constitution fall within the ambit of the right to freedom of religion? Now, this question is slightly confusing, because at times UPSC is going to ask you questions in a little confusing language that you have to really understand what question is asking. Question is not asking which of these are related to secularism in India. Question is asking which of these articles are part of the right to freedom of religion. And for that, you know, Article 25 to Article 27, 28. So, Article 25 to Article 28 are part of right to freedom of religion. Article 29, 30 deal with minority rights or the rights of minorities, cultural and education rights of minorities. 19 is not a part of freedom of religion. 32 is not a part of the rights classified as freedom of religion. 25, 26, 27 and 28. So in this case only 3 here. Only 3. So how many? It's not asking which of these. How many? How many means 3 of these articles are related to or fall within the ambit of right to freedom of religion. Question number 6. Article 15 provides that a state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. With some exceptions, of course, there are always some exceptions. In this regard, consider the following statements. The state is permitted to legislate any special provision for women and children. Definitely, this is one of the exceptions to that discrimination. A state can make special provisions for the interest of women and children. The state is empowered to make any special provision for advancement of any economically weaker section. This was recently inserted in our constitution when 10% of the reservation was allotted to EWS sections among upper castes. The state is permitted to make special provisions for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, but not for socially education backward. Of course, for socially and education backward classes also. So this is wrong here. Are correct. So 1 and 2 are correct. Third is wrong here. So option is B. Question number 7. Consider the following statements regarding the executive in the Parliament of India. So there is legislature, there is executive, there is judiciary. And some of the members of our executive, they are actually part of Parliament also. See, every minister is a part of executive. Or there are 2 kinds of executive in India, elected executive and appointed executive. Appointed executive means civil servants or the bureaucrats. Elected executive means ministers. The Constitution of India vests the executive power of union formally in President, not Prime Minister. The executive is responsible for implementing the laws made by Parliament. Perfectly correct. At the center, the executive consists of President, Vice President, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Definitely. So 2 and 3 are correct. 1 is wrong. How many of the above statements? So how many? You have to be very, very careful when you get the issue of how many. So how many? Only 2. Option is B. Question number 8. In the context of public interest litigation, PIL. So PIL is an instrument innovated, or it's a judicial innovation. It's innovated by our judiciary or Supreme Court to ensure that justice is not only accessible, justice is easily available and coming at cheap price to every section of population. So to improve the accessibility and approach of the justice system to every section of population, the concept of PIL or the instrument of PIL was developed by Indian judiciary. In PIL means any person, he may not be or she may not be a aggrieved person, can file a case or can write to the court on behalf of general public. Public interest litigation allows individuals or organizations to file cases on behalf of those whose rights are being violated. Perfectly correct. Public. So this issue should be of public concern. Issue should not be of private concern. Think of pollution related issues. Think of cleaning of river. Think of cutting of trees. Think of any other, let's say, use of pesticides in agriculture. So these kind of issues are of public concern. Flooding, repeated flooding in river basins, these are issues of public concern. So if an issue of public concern is there and that is affecting the exercise of the interest or the fundamental rights of citizens in general, anyone can approach the court to get the wrong addressed. PIL was introduced by Supreme Court of India to simplify the legal process and to increase access to justice. Perfectly correct. A formal petition has to be addressed. No formal petition is required. So you don't need to file any formal petition. You can just write a letter. You can just send a telegram, a simple postcard of 25 paisa is good enough for the court, High Court or Supreme Court to take up the matter. So a formal petition is not required to be addressed to the Supreme Court or High Court because a letter or telegram is also treated as PIL. So point number 3 is wrong here. 1 and 2 are correct. Which of these? 1 and 2 only. A. Question number 9. In the context of money bill, consider following statements. Article 110 of the Indian Constitution defines the term money bill. Perfectly correct. And the decision of the Speaker Lok Sabha is final in this case. So Lok Sabha Speaker decides what is money bill, whether a bill is money bill or not, under the provisions of Article 110. The Rajya Sabha can only delay a money bill by 14 days. Definitely, Rajya Sabha has 14 days to accept, to reject, or to return the bill with modifications or without modifications, or with amendments or without amendments. Lok Sabha can accept those amendments, can reject the amendments, and if Rajya Sabha does not take any action, does not send the bill back to Lok Sabha within 14 days, the bill is supposed to have been approved by both the houses of parliament. It can be introduced in Lok Sabha, only Lok Sabha, not Rajya Sabha. Money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha, of course, on the prior recommendations of President. And this prior recommendation is also a matter of procedure. It's not a constitutional compulsion. But you will see in Article 253 of Constitution that it is clearly mentioned that prior recommendation of President is a matter of procedure. Even if the bill has been introduced in Lok Sabha without prior recommendation and the President finally accepts it, accords signature to it, then also it is considered to be duly passed. But generally, this is how it is written, that prior recommendation of President is necessary for the introduction of a money bill, and money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha because Lok Sabha is the only deciding house on matters related to money bill. 1 and 2 are correct. 3rd is incorrect. Question asking not correct. So 3 only. Question number 10. Which of the following rights are guaranteed by the Constitution of South Africa to its citizen? So there are kind of questions at times related to the comparative analysis of different constitution provisions. So these are given in NCERT. So try to see some of these provisions which are simple in nature. Right to have access to healthcare services, right to have access to adequate housing, environment that is not harmful, right to privacy. All of these are part of South African Constitution, and option here becomes D. Question number 11. Which of the following directive principles with state policy DPSPs, part 4 of Constitution, come under the category of liberal principles? So there are some Gandhian principles, so let's say cottage industry, village panchayat. There are some socialist principles related to distribution of wealth, taking care of welfare of workers and all. And there are some liberal principles taking care of general population with a special focus on vulnerable sections. The state shall endeavor to promote early childhood care and education of children until they complete the age of 6. Because beyond the age of 6, now we have fundamental rights to education, 6 to 14. The state shall promote with special care the education and economic interest of weaker sections. That is not a part of liberal principle, that is socialist principle. The state shall secure that the operation of legal system promote justice on the basis of equal opportunity. That's again not a part of liberal stuff, that's part of socialist principles. The state shall take steps to organize village panchayat. This is a part of Gandhian principles. So only one here in this case, that is A. With reference to chapter on fundamental rights in the Constitution, consider following statements. The fundamental rights protects the citizens of India against arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by state. Fundamental rights are protection against arbitrary use or arbitrary misuse of power by state, as well as protection against other individual citizens. Some of the rights are against the state, some of the rights are against citizens. For example, right to protection against untouchability. This is against other citizens. So that way you can understand it. These sections on the section of fundamental rights has often been referred to as the conscience of Indian Constitution. Perfectly correct, but it keeps the powers of state in check. The state is duty bound to protect fundamental rights. It means the state cannot misuse the powers. This is what is a conscience, that you remain balanced, don't become despotic. All the fundamental rights are available to foreigners and legal persons like all are not available. Some are available to foreigners, some are available to foreigners as well as the Indian citizens. Article 19 is not available to foreigners, so that we can understand. Which are correct? 1 and 2 only. Number 13. With reference to Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989, so this was SCs and STs in bracket Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. It was a move to ensure a dignified life to the citizens of SC and ST communities in India. This act was framed in response to the demands made by Dalits and tribal groups. Dalit means SC, and tribal groups to address their ill treatment and humiliation. Earlier, there were so many kind of offenses or crimes committed against members of SC and ST communities, which were not clearly delineated or explained in our judicial legal system or in our IPC and CRPC. So those crimes were referred as atrocities, crimes of socio-economic and political nature which are not easily identifiable, which are linked to caste. For example, if you call a Brahmana by his caste or her caste, Brahmana may not feel offended, but if somebody is from the lower caste and you ask the person to call the person with the caste name that looks like abusive, that's the meaning, that's the example you can have in your mind. This act defines offenses limited to assault, sexual violence, atrocities in public places, denial of access to public places. Perfectly correct. All these offenses are there, but these are not limited to that. These are broad categories, such as, you can say, offenses such as, not limited to, such as assault. All of these are part of atrocities, but these are not the only one. This is a long list of many such offenses. So it's wrong here. This act primarily focuses on crimes related to land ownership and resources disposition. So primarily again the problem here, social issues, caste-related issues, political rights issues, not allowing someone to vote, blocking the way, not allowing someone to use public passage, not allowing someone to have water from public well. So those kind of problems are there, which are, or issues or offenses are there, which are identified or classified as atrocities. So it focuses on crimes related to land ownership and resource disposition, but there are many more such dispositions or issues or such offenses which fall in the category of atrocities. Which of these are not correct? 2 and 3. Option is C. Question number 14. Which of the following statements are not correct regarding writs? So there are 5 writs. I hope you have read the writs here. Habeas corpus, mandamus, quo warranto, certiorari, prohibition. Under habeas corpus, illegal arrest is disallowed. Habeas corpus means to have the body. Court can order an arrested person to be produced before it, and if the arrest is illegal, court can order the person to be free. Can order the arrested person to be set free if the manner of arrest is not lawful. The writ of quo warranto means show me the authority. What is the authority through which you have occupied a public office? Issued when particular office holder is not doing the legal duty. When particular office holder is not doing the legal duty, then writ is mandamus, I command. I command. Mandamus means I command you to do your duty. Quo warranto means show me the authority through which you have occupied this public office. So it is not correct here. Not correct, only 2. B. Question number 15. India adopted the first past the post system. Means anyone who gets maximum votes in an election, person is declared elected. No, there's no need to get 50% of the votes. In regard to the reasons responsible for its adoption, consider following statements. It is simple and can be easily understood by common masses. At the time of independence, our system or the kind of public was not very educated. We needed a system which is easy and convenient to people of less educational background. It offers voters a choice not simply between the parties but also candidates. Perfectly correct. It makes functioning of parliamentary government smooth and effective by facilitating formation of a stable government. Because if you have proportional representation system, then multiple parties come into existence. Because seats are allotted in the ratio of the percentage of votes received by a party. So that creates political instability. How many are correct? All 3 are correct here. See. 16 number. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the principle of secularism mentioned in Constitution? Secularism means everyone has a freedom to practice any faith without any restriction imposed by state. Secularism means a state will not discriminate among the people on the basis of their religion. A state will allow everyone to enjoy their religious freedom. Indian model of secularism connotes complete separation. This complete separation between church and state, or the religion and state, is the Western concept. Western concept says religion is different, state is different. Our concept says state will ensure that everyone has freedom of religion. A state can manage temples, a state provides subsidy for Hajj travels, a state organizes Amarnath Yatra. So this way you can understand our state is closely related to religion, because our state is responsible for creating an environment where citizens can enjoy their right to freedom of religion. So there is no watertight separation between religion and state in India. Secularism forms part of basic structure. Definitely, Supreme Court has repeatedly emphasized secularism is part of basic structure. Is R correct? So you need to find correct ones, only 2, that is B. Question number 17. In the context of reserved constituencies in parliament and state legislative assemblies, consider following statements. Reserved constituencies are created to ensure that weaker sections have a fair chance to represent themselves in parliament and legislature. Perfectly correct. Reserved constituencies are applicable only to SCs and STs. There is no reservation for women, or there is no reservation to OBC, and there is no reservation for any other community. And reservation in terms of constituency, we are not talking about here appointment of or nomination of Anglo-Indians. It's talking about constituencies. Constituencies are not reserved for any other community in India. Only SC, STs. The number of reserved seats in Lok Sabha change, and delimitation commission takes care of that. As per the change in percentage of population, the number of constituencies reserved can change or changes over the period of time. 1 and 2 only. 18. Read the following statements regarding reservation of seats in local bodies. In local bodies, there is reservation for SCs, STs, OBCs. OBCs is allowed, but there is no reservation anywhere as such. Right now, issues are going on. Women reservation is there, 1/3 minimum. Reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes is explicitly mentioned in Constitution. Perfectly correct. So there is a reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. 1/3 of the seats in rural and urban local bodies are reserved for women candidates. Perfectly correct. Indian Constitution prohibits reservation for other backward class. Indian Constitution does not prohibit. Article 243D, if you have seen, Article 243D, if you have seen, allows reservation for backward classes. So, a state can make provisions for reservation of seats for backward classes. That's the language there. Reservation of scheduled caste seats is explicitly mentioned. Now there is a little issue here. Like for women, it is 1/3 mentioned here. The quantum of reservation is not explicitly mentioned for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So that's the issue here. Provision is there, seat should be reserved, but the quantum is not mentioned. Quantum is decided by the government on the basis of the percentage of population. So that way this statement becomes wrong. Which of these are correct? Only 2 is correct. 19. In the context of Mandal Commission, BP Mandal Commission, consider following statements. The recommendations of this commission, also known as Socially and Educationally Backward Classes Commission, were implemented through executive order by the government of Prime Minister VP Singh in 1989. This commission provided for a reservation of 27% of, not 50%, 27% of seats for OBCs. So point number 2 is wrong here. Which of these are correct? Only 1 is correct. So keep reading questions slowly with attention, and you'll find most of these are quite easy to tackle. Question number 20. With reference to preamble, consider the following statements. Preamble to the Constitution of India. The preamble can neither provide substantive powers to the 3 organs of a state nor limit their powers. Preamble is not a source of authority. Preamble does not impose any restriction on exercise of authority by organs of a state. Though the preamble is a part of the Constitution, but it cannot be amended. Preamble is a part of Constitution and it can be amended, and it has been amended by 42nd Amendment Act. The preamble cannot override the specific provisions. Of course, preamble is not a source of power. Preamble is a source of restriction. So it cannot override the specific provisions of Constitution. 1 and 3 are correct. Incorrect one, only one of these points. Which of the above statement? Only one is statement, not number 1. Only one statement is incorrect, and that is statement number 2. Question number 21. In the context of Indian judiciary, consider following statements. The Constitution of India provides for a single integrated judicial system. Correct. The Constitution of India provides that the salaries and allowances of the judges of High Court are subject to approval of state legislature. No, these are charged expenses. Charged expenses means which are not subject to voting by members of legislature or members of parliament in this case. The judges of Supreme Court and High Court are appointed by President of India. Perfectly correct. 1 and 3 are correct. B. 22. Consider following statement. The Supreme Court and High Courts have the power to interpret the Constitution of India and declare invalid any law. Article 13 Judicial Review gives this power. The Parliament of India has an absolute authority to amend the core principles of Indian Constitution. Parliament does not have absolute authority. Parliament cannot change the basic structure of Constitution. Parliament cannot take away the soul of the Constitution. That's how we identify basic structure. So Parliament's amending authority is limited. 1 and 2 is wrong. Which one is correct? Only 1 is correct. 23. In the context of removal of judges of Supreme Court and High Court, consider following statements. The Parliament can discuss the conduct of the judges except when the proceedings to remove a judge is being carried out. Parliament cannot discuss the conduct of judges except when, cannot discuss the conduct of judges except when the resolution for the removal of a judge is under consideration. Always remember that. Judges are removed, judges are not impeached. So generally in books and in newspaper magazines also you'll find that judges are impeached. Judges of High Court and Supreme Court are not impeached. Only one office holder, and that is the President of India. Only President of India is impeached, others are removed. There's a difference between removal and impeachment. Impeachment means when a resolution has been adopted with requisite majority by both the Houses of Parliament, the office holder stands removed. No one has to sign it. So once the resolution is for the removal of President and resolution has been approved by both the Houses of Parliament separately with requisite majority, means a special majority, then no one is required to sign it. Once it is passed, both the houses verify it, means House chairman or House Speaker will have to sign it, then only resolution is approved. No higher authority is required to sign it. That is called impeachment. When a judge of High Court or Supreme Court is removed, both the houses will have to adopt resolution with requisite majority by following the process. And then the resolution goes to President. And the President will have to sign it. Then only the judge stands removed. In between, the judge can resign. Good enough. In between the past signing, the judge's tenure may get over. There's no definite time limit that President has to sign within 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 1 month. In between, the person may get retired. And removal process ends. So that we have to understand what is impeachment and what is removal. Any approval from the Chief Justice of India is not required. Perfectly correct. There is no role of Chief Justice of India as such in the removal process. There is a process defined in Constitution. A motion for the removal of judge is required to be passed with a special majority. 2/3 majority, not 50% majority. So this is wrong here. 1 is wrong, 3 is wrong. How many of these statements are incorrect? There are 2 statements which are incorrect. So option is B. 24. Read the following statements carefully. The term procedure established by law refers to the process that can be used by executive to deprive a person of his life and liberty. That is procedure established by law. There has to be a procedure. You cannot have any random process. You cannot do the things in a random way. You cannot deprive a person of his life or liberty by taking a random decision. That is what is a procedure established by law. Due process of law has been adopted from American system. Menka Gandhi case, it was accepted by Supreme Court. Due process of law is not mentioned. Perfectly correct. Are correct. Both are correct here. See. 25. Consider following officials. The former Chief Justice, National Human Rights Commission is composed of which of the above officials, which are the above functionaries? Former Chief Justice of Supreme Court, former Judges of Supreme Court, former Chief Justice of High Court, but there is no provision for a Judge of High Court. So 1, 2, 3, they can be part of NHRC. 26. In the context of elections in India, consider following statements. It is mandatory for every candidate wishing to contest election to provide a legal declaration at the time of nomination. Perfectly correct. As per the orders of Supreme Court, every candidate has to have this legal binding declaration, and in this person has to declare asset and the criminal cases, etc. The information in the legal declaration includes details of criminal cases pending against the candidate as well as any case pending against family members. Cases are not required. Only cases against candidate are needed to be declared. Only one. So which one is correct? Only one is correct. 27. Which of the following statements are not correct regarding objective resolution? Objective resolution was introduced by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in Constituent Assembly. If you know the date, 13th of December, adopted on 22nd of January 1947. It emphasized that the power and authority of the sovereign lie with the people, not with the government. Sovereignty lies with the people. It highlighted the need to educate safeguards for minorities. Perfectly correct. It included that the territorial integrity of the republic and sovereign rights and lands, etc., shall be maintained according to justice and law of civilized nations. Perfectly correct. Not correct, so only one. That is A. 28. In the context of parliamentary form of government adopted by India, consider following statements. This form of government is based on the doctrine of separation of powers between legislature and executive. Perfectly correct. Parliamentary form of government has the separation of powers. This form of government provides for a nominal head and real executive head. President is the nominal head of executive and Prime Minister is the real head of executive. The Constitution of India has adopted this form of government at the center as well as in states. Perfectly correct. All three are correct here. How many of the statements? All three. With reference to the international Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. This is a treaty of related to Human Rights Treaty of UNO. This covenant has been ratified by all the countries, including India. Not all the countries, you'll find Singapore has not ratified it. Around 171 countries have ratified it so far. It is multilateral treaty adopted by UN General Assembly, perfectly correct. So, which one is correct? Only two. One is wrong, option is B. Question number 30, in the context of fundamental rights, consider the following statements. The fundamental rights in the Constitution are enforceable in the court of law? Of course. These are justiciable rights. Article 32, Article 226. Article 32 empowers a person to approach Supreme Court in case any fundamental right is violated. Article 226 empowers a person to approach High Court directly in case of violation of any fundamental right. In India, the right to constitutional remedies, that's Article 32, is a part of fundamental rights, and most important part of fundamental rights, in fact. That's the soul of fundamental rights. For the violation of fundamental right, a citizen can directly approach Supreme Court or High Court. These are the provisions, perfectly correct. How many are correct? All the three. 31. Consider terms which, how many of the above terms were added to the preamble by 42nd Amendment Act? Secular, integrity and socialist. So earlier there was liberty, now liberty and unity and integrity was the phrase added. If you know how many words were there in preamble, originally there were 81 words, carefully selected 81 words. The original preamble had 81 words because 8 plus 1 make 9, and 9 is the highest or the biggest numeral in number system. This 81 number of words was deliberately or carefully adopted, carefully decided. And now we have 84. Because 4 were added, 1 was removed. Unity and integrity, 3 words. This phrase, unity, taken out, unity and integrity, 3 plus socialist. 3 plus socialist and secular. So that we have to understand. 84 words are there. And integrity, secular, socialist. These are 4 words which are added. And integrity 4 words. So this become 85 total, yes. So 81 plus 4. 31 number, what are the options here? 1, 3 and 4. Only 3. Which of the following human rights are recognized by International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights? The same Treaty of UN General Assembly. Right to work, right to educate, standard of living, social security and insurance, health, education. All of these are part of the social, cultural, educational, economic rights of that covenant. All of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D. 33, with reference to question R. Question R is a part of parliamentary procedure. First hour of the day of the session is question R. It's not the last hour of every parliamentary sitting, it's the first hour of every parliamentary sitting is question hour. It is a mechanism that is usually used by legislature to control executive, opposite. Private members of legislature can also be held accountable for their bills. So if private member introduces a bill, then you can direct your question even to the private member, means an MP who is not a minister is termed as private member. The presiding officers of both the houses are the final authority in the conduct of question are perfectly correct. Are correct here. 1 and 2 are wrong. 3, 4 are correct. Option is D. 34. Which of the following are not the part of the fundamental duties mentioned in Constitution? Duty to protect public property and abjure violence. This is a part of fundamental duties, part 4A. Duty to value, protect, improve natural environment. Duty to pay tax is not a fundamental duty. Duty to cast vote is not a fundamental duty. Nobody is under any kind of constitutional compulsion to cast vote or pay tax. These are legal duties could be, and there is no legal duty to cast vote also. But taxes have to be paid. 1 and 2 are correct. Not part of that, so pay the look at the instruction clearly not part. So not part 3 and 4, B. 35. Consider following statements about criminal law and civil law. Civil law deals with the body of rules which defines civil rights and obligations and its remedies, whereas the criminal law defines the rules relating to public rights and liabilities. So individual versus public, that is one point of difference or fundamental point of difference between civil and the criminal law. In case of civil law, only the grieved person can file appeal. That is also important point of difference. Punishment of a jail term is given in case of criminal matters. In civil matters, mostly there is no punishment of jail term. It's only fine. So 1 and 2, third is wrong here, A. 36. Consider the following statements. The President of India can appoint any member of Parliament as Prime Minister. President has to appoint the leader of the majority party in the House. House means Lok Sabha here, as Prime Minister. He cannot appoint anybody randomly as Prime Minister. Or now C cannot appoint anybody randomly as Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is appointed for a fixed tenure of 5 years from the date of appointment. There is no fixed tenure of Prime Minister. Prime Minister stays in office till the time Council of Ministers enjoys the confidence of Lok Sabha. A person who is not a member of Parliament can be appointed as minister, and he can stay or she can stay as minister for 6 months. 1 and 2 are wrong. Third is correct. Which of these are correct? 3 only. Which of the following social evils is mentioned in Constitution? Traffic in human beings, begar, child labor. Traffic in human beings, begar, Article 23, child labor, Article 24. Female infanticide is not mentioned. So 1 to 3. Option is C here. With reference to various terms used in Indian judiciary, consider following statements. Dispute resolution means a mechanism for resolving disputes and differences among various parties. Judicial review is the power of judiciary to strike down any law which violates the provisions of Constitution. Article 13. Both are correct. Process of upholding the law and enforcing fundamental rights gives every citizen a right to appoint Supreme Court, right to approach Supreme Court. That's perfectly correct. That's how a law is upheld. Incorrect. None of these is incorrect. D. 39. In the context of composition of Council of Ministers, consider the following statements. The ministers of a state are attached to and are required to assist cabinet ministers who are usually the top level leaders of ruling party. Perfectly correct. A minister can openly criticize any decision. A minister cannot openly criticize any decision of Council of Ministers because this is the system of collective responsibility. They may have disagreement within the Council of Ministers when decision is being taken, but once decision is taken through majority vote within Council of Ministers, that is a decision of entire government. That is the decision of entire Council of Ministers. So minister cannot resent, minister cannot criticize openly once decision has been taken. Whether the issue is related to his or her department or some other department, that is not the issue. Only one is correct. Option is A. 40. Given below are two statements. Assertion: the reservation policy of India aims to assist sections of our population that have been historically denied opportunities. A statement is correct here. The reservation policy is based on the argument that a democratic government needs to step in and provide assistance to backward section. That is also correct. So assertion and the reason. So A should have reason R, or R is the reason of A. A is there because of R. And that because of relationship you can fit. If you can connect them through the relation of because of, then option is A, otherwise B, if both are individually correct. So in this case, A and R both are true, and R is the correct explanation of A, or R is the correct reason of A. If you are elected as President of India, which of the following decisions can you take? President has certain powers. Veto power, which is suspensive veto, pocket veto. President cannot appoint anyone as per his or her choice as Prime Minister. Prime Minister is the leader of the majority of party or majority alliance. Dismiss a Prime Minister who has lost majority. That's not a dismissal. That is, the moment majority is lost or not, this is proved on the floor of House, that is Lok Sabha. Ask for reconsideration of bill passed by both the houses. This is what is a suspensive veto. This president can exercise on his or her own. There is no need of any consent, any permission, any recommendation from anybody else. Nomination of leaders of your choice to the Council Minister, that is on the recommendations of Prime Minister. So C is the right option here. 42. The Prime Minister of India is not directly elected by people. This is because in a parliamentary democracy, only the leader of the majority party in Lok Sabha can be appointed as Prime Minister. That is the reason. So option is A clearly. Lok Sabha can remove Prime Minister. That's not the reason. Lok Sabha can remove, but that's not the reason for not electing Prime Minister directly. 43. Match the following pairs with respect to the leaders with their roles in the making of the Constitution. Motilal Nehru was the chairman of Nehru Committee that drafted Nehru Report in 1928, and the Nehru Report is known as the first Constitution of India. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of Drafting Committee. C. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the President of Constituent Assembly. Sarojini Naidu was a member of Constituent Assembly. So 1D, 2C, that's sufficient. 1D, 2C, that is C. 44. According to our election law, no party candidate can bribe or threaten voters. Correct. Appeal to them in the name of caste, religion. Correct. Use government resources. Correct. Spend more than 25 lakh and 10 lakh. So these limits are decided by Election Commission. These limits change from time to time. And now the highest limit is around 1 crore, 95 lakh around for election in Lok Sabha. So they can spend more than 25 lakh, because the limit is much more than 25 lakh at present. 1 to 3. 45. All the political parties in our country have agreed to a model code of conduct. This is a kind of informal agreement. There's no law called model code of conduct, but there's informal agreement that once election schedule or notification is issued, the government should not undertake any kind of major policy decision that could affect the voting pattern. Use any place of worship to run any election campaign. That's part of MCC, Model Code of Conduct. Use government vehicles. That is all part of NCC. You cannot use it. No party candidate can. So these are prohibited things. Once elections are announced, the ministers shall not lay foundation stone. That's correct. So 1 to 3, all are correct here. Incorrect one, none. Consider the following statement. District courts have jurisdiction over matters related to land disputes, family disputes, criminal matters. Perfectly correct. District courts are full-fledged courts. District courts are the primary trial courts. That is also perfectly correct. So both are correct here. Option is C. 47. Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation judgment in 1985. That case is related to the right of payment dwellers, the right to livelihood with dignity. Olga Tellis was a news reporter, or you can say journalist. So right to livelihood was the issue at stake. This was about right of payment dwellers in Mumbai. They were being removed by government, or BMC basically, Municipal Corporation of Mumbai. And that was taken to the Supreme Court. 48. With reference to Rajya Sabha, consider following statements. It functions primarily as a representative of states in parliament. Perfectly correct. That's we see Council of States. It can initiate a legislation, and all the bills are required to pass through Rajya Sabha in order to become a law. Of course, all have to pass through, not passed by. Even money bill has to come to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has less power, but bill has to come to Rajya Sabha. You cannot say, okay, why to send to Rajya Sabha? Leave it. That's not possible. All the members of Rajya Sabha are elected. All are not elected. There are 12 members who are nominated. 238, 12. There are nominated as well as elected members of Rajya Sabha. The elected members are indirectly elected by members of state legislative assemblies. 1 and 2 are correct. A. 49. If system of direct election in India was changed from first past post system to proportional representation, which of the following would be the most likely outcome? Most likely outcome will be emergence of large number of parties along the lines of caste, religion, language, culture, economy, or any other affiliation. So we'll have multiple parties emerging up, and political instability will be the order of the day. Political parties will win lesser number of seats in election. That's not necessary. They may win more also. Various sections in society will get more balanced representation. That's correct, because seats in parliament will be decided as per the percentage of voters of a particular group. Group could be economic, cultural, religious, lingual, whatever might be criteria. There will be no need of multi-party. There will be grave need of multi-party coalition. So only B is correct here. 50. Which of the following conditions are sufficient for a political party to be recognized as national party? So you should know the conditions for national party as well as state party. It must secure a minimum of 6% of valid votes polled in at least 4 states in general election of Lok Sabha, and must win minimum 4 seats. That's correct. It must win, or otherwise it must win a minimum of 2% of seats at least from 3 states. It is recognized as a state party in at least 4 states, not 2 states, 4 states. So not 2. So 1 and 2 are the right condition. Third one is not a proper condition. 1 and 2 only. 51. Consider the following statement. The women's suffrage movement gained momentum during First World War. Women came out of their house. They had to work in schools and markets and hospitals. When men folk moved to the battlefront to fight against the enemy, the women empowerment took place in a big way. The women in the United States were granted right to vote after means 1920 in US and 1918 in UK. So this is opposite. So it's wrong. Which was the first country to grant women right to vote? Country was New Zealand. Always remember that. 1 is correct, 2nd is wrong, 1 only. 52. Match the following pairs: democracy, accountable to people; anarchy, where there is no effective government authority; monarchy, hereditary system of government. Choose the correct one. A1, B3, C2, B. 53. With reference to Gram Sabha and Gram Panchayat. Gram Sabha means all the voters of a village, all the adult members of the village, they constitute Gram Sabha. And those who are elected by these adult voters or adult members of village, or these voters of the village, they are known as, they constitute Gram Panchayat. Gram Panchayat are elected representatives. Gram Sabha is the group of the voters of a village. Gram Sabha is a local self-governing body. Gram Panchayat is a local self-governing body at the village level, and that is responsible for implementing of developmental programs. Gram Panchayat requires approval from Gram Sabha. That's correct. Gram Sabha is a bigger body. Gram Sabha consists of all the registered voters in the village. That's correct. A statement are correct. 2 and 3 only. C. First one is wrong. 54. Which of the following are the sources of funds of Gram Panchayat? Gram Panchayat doesn't have right to impose service tax. It can collect taxes from houses, markets, cesses, etc. Funds received from governmental schemes, donations for community work. 1, 3, 4, but not 2. Option is C. With reference to Panchayat Secretary is the person, government official, who is responsible for managing the functions of Gram Sabha, Gram Panchayat. Both Gram Panchayat and Gram Sabha have the same. The Panchayat Secretary is same for both. They are not separate. Respective Panchayat Secretaries. So they have their respective secretaries, but the person is same. So that way you have to take it. So this will be right. Panchayat secretary is elected, not elected, is a government functionary, is officer. The secretary is responsible for calling the meeting, that's correct. So yes, first one will also be wrong here, because both Gram Panchayat, they don't have respective secretaries. The secretary is same for both. Panchayat secretary is one person and he is secretary to Gram Sabha and as well as Gram Panchayat. So first one will also be wrong. So kindly read the issues carefully, otherwise there will be possibility of mistake. Only 3 is correct here. Is correct? Only 3. D. With reference to Jilla Parishad, consider following statements. It is the highest level of Panchayat system in district, village, and then block, and then district. We have 3-tier system of Panchayati Raj. It is responsible for making developmental plans and regulating funds. Perfectly correct. Block level body and district level body, they regulate flow of funds to Gram Panchayats. Most of the members of Jilla Parishad are elected. Some are nominated, but most are elected. So 3 is wrong. 1 and 2. How many are correct? Only 2. According to criminal law in India, which of the following fundamental rights is guaranteed to every arrested person? Suppose someone is arrested, the person has to be taken to the magistrate or presented before a magistrate within 24 hours of the arrest. Of course, these 24 hours do not count the time taken in journey. 24 hours of arrest. Confessions made in police custody are not considered as evidence, because confessions could be extracted by using force, by using techniques of torture, etc. Right not to be ill-treated and tortured during the period of arrest, that's correct. And that's how this second one becomes important. Because somebody could be tortured and person could be forced to accept that he or she was not tortured. Right to be informed about the offense at the time of arrest, that's correct. 1, 3, 4. 2 is wrong. Option is C. 58, with reference to term prejudice. Prejudice means somebody is white, somebody is black, somebody is colored, somebody is this, somebody is thick, somebody is thin, somebody is of religion A, religion B, language A, language B. So that way you can see we have certain, or people have certain preconceived notions, often negative, discriminatory in character. Sexual discrimination, that could be prejudice. We should not hire women, we should hire male, we should not hire this, we should not hire that. So at times people do it. So that is sexual discrimination. Racism, religious discrimination, linguistic discrimination, all these can be the possible grounds for prejudice. Prejudice leads to discrimination, denial of dignified life to an individual. And that is an offense. How many of the above activities are considered as examples of different kind of prejudice? All the 4. 59. Consider the following statements. The primary responsibility of Patwari. Patwari is the village level officer, is to survey land and keep track of land rate documents. Perfectly correct. Patwari is also referred as Lekpal, Kanun, village officer in different areas. The role of Patwari is not limited to one single village. At times, the Patwaris have a cluster of villages to manage. Administration management of not single village but multiple villages mostly. 1 and 2 are correct, 3rd is wrong. E. 60. With reference to election commission, consider following statements. The chief election commissioner is appointed by President of India. That's correct. Chief election commissioner is answerable to President. No, he is not answerable to President. He is answerable to the Constitution of India. The election commission implements the code of conduct, model code of conduct, punishes any candidate that violates it or party. Perfectly correct. 1 and 3. C. 61. Match the following pairs. Property tax. Tax paid by homeowners. General tax. Tax paid by wider population for various purposes. Service tax. Tax paid for specific amenities and activities. Suppose you go to a restaurant, you pay service tax. Choose the correct answer. A2, B1, C3. C. 62. In the context of United Nations Security Council, consider following statement. It is charged with ensuring international peace and security. UNSC is the executive wing of UNO. UNGA, UN General Assembly, is the legislative wing of UNO. It's like a parliament of UNO. UNSC has 15, 5 permanent, 10 non-permanent members. 15 members, 5 are permanent. P5, the countries that have veto power, and 10 are non-permanent. Non-permanent members are elected for a tenure of 2 years by UNGA on a rotational basis. This is how UNSC functions. So UNSC is a permanent body. UNGA is summoned once in a year. UNSC remains in session all the time. It can meet any time at the shortest possible notice. 1 and 3. Only 2. Read the following statements carefully and select the correct answer. All members of parliament and legislative assemblies of states participate in the election of president. All members of parliament and legislative assemblies do not participate. Nominated members do not participate. In the Indian political system, the president exercises only nominal powers. That's correct. All international treaties and agreements are signed in the name of president. That's correct. 2 and 3. So see them carefully. Nominated members do not participate. So 2 and 3, option is C. 64. The tenure of every panchayat shall be for 5 years from the date of its first meeting. It's easy. 65. With reference to public health services, consider following statements. It's a chain of health centers and hospitals run by government. Correct. These services provide treatment to all kinds of problems. Special services means maybe vaccination, maybe all those kind of issues. Primary health centers provide specialized. No, primary health centers will not provide any specialized like operation and cancer treatment or liver transplantation. These kind of issues or specialized services will not be available at PHCs. So 1 and 2 are correct. Third is wrong here. Option is B. 66. Consider following statements. Each state in India has its own legislature that could be bicameral or unicameral. Some states have legislative council as the upper house and legislative assembly as the lower house. So that way it could be bicameral or unicameral. Legislative council of a state consists of nominated representatives of the people. All are not nominated, some are nominated. So it's not just nominated here. Read the language carefully. Consists of means it has nominated members. It is made of nominated members. No, it is made of nominated plus elected members. So kindly read that carefully. Generally, the ruling party in a state is one whose MLAs have one majority of the constituencies. That's correct. 1 and 3. A. 67. Consider the following statements about apartheid. Apartheid means a system of racial segregation, discrimination on the basis of race, and that is legally provided. In the system, the people were divided on the basis of religion, race, caste, not all of these, only race. White versus non-whites. African National Congress led by Dr. Nelson Mandela fought against apartheid system. That's correct. Only 2 is correct. Not correct, you have to find out, so only 1. So read the questions carefully and you will find the answers will not be of much problem to you. In regard to universal adult franchise, consider following statements. It is based on the idea of one person, one vote, one value. Perfectly correct. Empowerment of all, democratic in character. It is a tool to ensure political empowerment of all citizens irrespective of economic and social background. Correct. It is an essential aspect of democracy. Is perfectly correct. Not correct. None of these. All are correct. 69. Which of the following criteria needs to be met if a person is to be elected to the state assembly? The person must not be less than 21 years of age. It's 25 years for lower house. That is state assembly. State council, legislative council will need 30 years of age. The person must be an elector in the constituency from which, not in the constituency, in the state. Person could be a voter anywhere in the state, and the person can contest election from any of the constituencies of that state to become an MLA or MLC. Neither one, no two. 70. According to Hindu Succession Act 1956, which of the following statement is correct? It recognizes both male and female as legitimate heirs for succession and inheritance. That's correct. The provisions of this act are applied to every citizen of India irrespective of his. Provisions are applied only to Hindus. This is Hindu Succession Act. This is not for Muslims or Christians or others. This is only for Hindu community. So only one is correct. A. Read the following statements carefully about Kaka Kalilkar Commission. So Kalilkar Commission means Kaka Sahib Kalilkar Commission. First backward class commission appointed by President of India in 1953. This commission was the first to identify backward classes other than SCs and STs at national level. Correct? This commission recommended income, not income, caste identity. And because it recommended caste identity, its recommendations were rejected by government. Government was expecting that income and literacy should be the criteria. So objective criteria of income and literacy were supposed to be there, but it recommended caste. That's why recommendations got rejected. One is correct, second is incorrect. A. 72. With reference to term Adivasi. Adivasi means indigenous original inhabitants. Generally, we say forest dwellers living in remote areas, having their distinct language, culture, and identity. They are termed as tribals or Adivasi. Adivasi literally means original inhabitants. That's the meaning of Adivasi. They have their own language, deeply influenced the formation of mainstream Indian languages. Correct? Adivasis practice a range of religions, not like organized religions, but maybe animism. Worshipping stones, worshipping trees, worshipping water, worshipping stars, totemism, animism, these kind of religions which are not organized religions are practiced by Adivasis. So third one is wrong here, 1 and 2. 73. In the context of Tehsildars, read the following statements carefully. District collectors work under the supervision of Tehsildar. Tehsildars work under the supervision of district collectors. So read carefully. It's easy. You know DC is much higher than Tehsildar. Tehsildar in a district are responsible for supervising works of patwaris. Correct? Tehsildar office is in a place where land disputes are heard. So it's a block level officer. Tehsildar. 1 is wrong, 2 and 3 are correct. How many are correct? Only 2. 74. Right to food as an extension of right to life guaranteed under Article 21 of Indian Constitution was explicitly enshrined by Supreme Court in People's Union of Civil Liberties versus Union of India case. This was the case in which right to food was declared as fundamental right. These are termed as inferred rights. Judicially inferred rights. These are not explicitly mentioned in Constitution, but judicially links the right to life and liberty with certain rights like clean environment. And here, food. A. 75. With reference to duties of Office of Public Prosecutor, consider the following statement. Public prosecutor, the role of public prosecutor begins once the police have fired charges. He's like the lawyer of the government or representing the police. Public prosecutor has an important role in investigation. Public prosecutor has no role in investigation process. Public prosecutor conducts the prosecution on behalf of a state, correct? Public prosecutor acts impartially and presents the full and material fact before the court, that's correct. So 1, 3, 4. C. Read the following statements about cognizable and non-cognizable offense carefully. A cognizable offense is the one in which police may arrest a person without warrant. That's correct. Cognizable means clearly visible, a serious kind of offense. There is no need of any magisterial warrant to arrest a person in a cognizable offense. In non-cognizable offense, a person can be arrested only with a magisterial warrant. So no arrest can be made is wrong. Arrest can be made but with warrant. Investigation into a cognizable offence does not require order from the court because it is serious kind of offence. Police enjoy the authority to investigate a non-cognizable offence on its own. Police will require permission of the court to investigate, or the case has to be filed. In case of non-cognizable offence, then only investigation can take place. This is a lighter kind of offences. So 1 and 3, correct. 2 and 4, incorrect. Only 2. B. 77, such a committee was constituted in 2005 by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh government to look into the condition of Muslims or economic and educational backwardness or conditions of Muslims. Rajinder Singh Sachar Committee, Justice Rajinder Sachar Committee. That was the full name of the judge who was chairman of this committee. 70. The reference to procedure followed by police in case of offence consider following statements. Recording of statements of witness, filing of the charge sheet. This is this. What do we need to do? Arrange the various procedural steps given above in correct chronological order. Recording of statements of witness, that's the first thing. Charge sheet is later phenomena. The police is required to form an opinion, then on the basis of that they will form opinion. Evidence is collected to the guilt. Accused person has to be satisfactory to the police, of course. Filing charge, that's the final step. So 1, 4, 3, 2, this is the chronology here. Option is C here. 1, 4, 3, 2. First, this. Second, this. Third, and then fourth. 79. Which of the following are examples of non-justiciable rights? Means for which you cannot go to court to get enforce these rights. You cannot go to court. Justiciable rights are fundamental rights, and there are many other rights which are not justiciable, which are mentioned in Constitution. Livelihood is a right but not justiciable. Equal pay for equal work, of course, is a right but not justiciable. These are provided through the law enacted by government or legislature. Right to privacy is a fundamental right, is a justiciable right. Right to work, early childhood care, these are rights which are highlighted in Constitution, but these are not justiciable rights. Most of these are part of DPSPs. You cannot approach the court to get DPSPs enforced. 1, 2, 4, 5. The last question from Polity segment here. Which of the following is a correct interpretation of cultural and educational rights? Rights to take steps to conserve their language is available only to minority. It's wrong. Everyone has a right to do that. Government schools must ensure that children of the minority group will be introduced to their respect. That's no responsibility. Linguistic and religious minorities can open schools for their children and keep it reserved for them. That is the correct right. Linguistic and religious minorities can demand that their children must not study. That is not right. So option is C here. Now we have questions related to current affairs, so the current developments. Consider following statements about unsponsored depository receipt. These are kind of shares which do not have voting rights attached to them, but they can be traded in secondary market or tertiary market. They are not actual shares, but receipt of representing shares. So these are kind of shares, that's what I'm saying. A UDR may represent one share, several shares, or a fraction of share. Perfectly correct. Once UDRs are issued, they cannot be freely bought and sold. They are freely bought and sold. They are perfectly traded, but they don't have voting rights attached to them. That is special qualification of UDRs. 1 and 2 are correct. With reference to auto grow system, consider following statement. It is a project initiated by IIT Bangalore and Indian Institute of Horticulture Research. Ministry is not involved in it. IIT Bangalore and Indian Institute of Horticulture Research. They are basically using different kind of sensors, Internet of Things, to observe the growth of plants so that human intervention could be minimized. It uses Internet of Things and artificial intelligence techniques to optimize crop yield. That's correct. This system consists of sensors that collect data about environment, water level, and everything. That's correct. So 1 is wrong, 2 and 3 are correct here. Option is C. 83. Recently, Middle East to India gas pipeline was in the news. So Middle East, you can see here, Uzbekistan will not be part of this. Which of the countries given above will be connecting? Oman, Saudi Arab, Iran, Qatar, India, but not Uzbekistan. So 1, 2, 3, 5 only. 84. Consider following statements about non-kinetic warfare. Non-kinetic means non-traditional warfare. You're not firing bullets, you're not firing shells, you are using cyber warfare or other kind of techniques. It refers to actions against adversary without direct convention, military action. Correct? It comprises possibilities such as information warfare, cyber warfare, psychological warfare, all these kind of things. Both are correct here. 85. With reference to Sanchar Sathi portal, read the following statement carefully. It is a citizen-centric initiative of Ministry of Communication under Department of Commerce, Ministry or Department of Telecommunication, but under Ministry of Communication, not Commerce. The first one is wrong. Through this portal, people will be able to block, track, check genuineness of used device before buying them. So it's basically going to help in trade of second-hand devices, mobile or phone or servers, etc. It is designed to empower mobile subscribers, strengthen the security. Perfectly correct. 2 and 3 are correct. 1 is wrong. C. 86. In the context of production-linked incentive PLI-2 for IT hardware, consider following statement. It's a follow-up to PLI-1 that was for mobile phones. You know, India is one of the biggest exporters of iPhones in India, thanks to PLI. It aims to make India as a trusted supply chain partner for IT hardware, correct? It allows global companies, hybrid means India plus global, NMSC company to apply, this correct? All are correct here. Incorrect 1. No one is incorrect, so all are correct, D. 87. Every year, several cyclones make their landfall near Indian Ocean region. With regard to naming of cyclone, which the following countries are involved. Bangladesh is involved, India is involved, Pakistan is involved, Oman is involved, Sri Lanka is involved, but Indonesia is not involved, Myanmar is involved. And why Indonesia? Because cyclones do not get formed in areas close to equator, and cyclones never cross equator. Theoretically, they can cross, but practically they almost never cross equator, because equatorial area does not provide conditions for the formation of cyclone. So Indonesia does not really face cyclones. 1, 2, 3, 4. 88. Read the following statements about Aadhaar-enabled payment system. This is a bank-led payment model which allows online interoperable financial transactions. Correct? It's a complete secure transaction model against financial fraud. There's no system which is completely secure. It's secure, it's better than others, but it's not a completely secure. This system only allows for cash withdrawals as well as payment transfers. So it's not just cash withdrawal, there are many other kind of banking facilities possible through it. 1 is correct, 2 and 3 are wrong. How many are correct? Only 1. In the context of Automated Return Scrutiny Module, ARSM, you might have read in tax system, this is a very new initiative of government. Very important one to get a boost in tax revenue or revenue income. It's a system which is used by income tax, not income tax, GST authorities. Not income tax authorities, but by goods and service tax authorities. It generates alerts in case of non-compliance, that's correct, and then officers can follow it up. Only 2. 90. The issue of default bail was seen in news recently, means in certain conditions the bail is the norm. Bail takes place automatically. It's a right to seek bail that rises when a police fails to complete investigation within 30 days for a non-bailable offense, within 60 days for a bailable offense. So this is a time that you have to remember. So it's not 1 month for all, this is 60 days for bailable one. The provisions of default bail is enshrined in CRPC, correct? Supreme Court held that right to default bail is fundamental right. That's correct. 2 and 3 are correct here. Option is C. 91. Recently, it was announced that the Reserve Bank of India will be among 13 international regulators that will be taking part in first ever greenwashing tax. Greenwashing means showing or trying to portray that your income is coming from environment-friendly activities. By which of the following organizations is organized by Global Financial Innovation Network? D. So this is a very important concept, greenwashing. And this has many different ways, the way it is being implemented nowadays. 92. Consider following statements. Permafrost means permanently frosted area. Permanent, the area is under ice for at least 2 years. Not for 6 months, for at least 2 years consecutively or on a continuous basis. That is called permafrost. Permafrost is found in Arctic region. Thawing permanent frost can lead to release of greenhouse gases. That's correct. Thawing means warming up basically. Can lead to dormant viruses and bacteria. Many bacteria, viruses, they come out. Yes, so I think there's some issue here. Permafrost is found only in Arctic, not only Arctic but also in Antarctic area. So polar areas basically North Pole as well as South Pole. 1 and 2 are wrong, 3 and 4 are correct here. So 2. How many are correct? 2 are correct. 93. With reference to 7525, initiative consider following system. It is an initiative of, not Niti Aayog, Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health. So 75% population, 75 million people suffering from hypertension, diabetes should be getting standard care by 2025. That's correct. First one is wrong. Option is 2 only. 94. National Capital Civil Service Authority, which has been considered recently by government or central government here. It's a statutory body set up under ordinance. Now it's about to become a law. Grade A officers, that's correct. The authority chaired by Delhi Chief Minister of NCT Delhi, not by Union Home Minister. Only 1 is correct. Not correct, so only 2. 95. Context of carbon dating. It can be used to determine age of non-living. It can be used to determine only the age of living beings because only living beings have C14. C14 decays at the rate of around 5,700 years to reach half-life. So that is used for carbon dating. Only carbonic product or organic products, organic things can be dated with the help of carbon. The age of things that are more than 50,000 cannot be determined. That's correct because half-life is around 5,700 years. So the percentage of carbon is negligible after a couple of half-lives. The age of ice cores in glacier and polar regions is determined. Carbon dating by studying trapped carbon dioxide, not nitrogen. Trapped carbon dioxide. This is wrong. 1 and 3 are wrong. 2 is correct. How many are correct? Only 1. 96. Recently the term hysterectomy was seen in news. Hysterectomy, removing the uterus of a female. It's a surgical procedure that involves removal of uterus. That's correct. As per National Family Health Survey, not 50%, around 3.3% of population of women have been made to go through it. And this is an important issue. Many private clinics have forced women to remove their uterus because they wanted to claim insurance amount supported or given by the government. Just to claim insurance, they force women to go through this surgical procedure unnecessarily. So this is wrong here, only 1. 97. Trade and Technology Council is sometimes seen in news. It is first bilateral forum between India and European Union. So this is Indo-European Union forum. Rast-Astra Railway is a transport corridor between India, Iran and Russia. Not Afghanistan, it passes through Azerbaijan also. India, Iran, Russia, and Azerbaijan also it passes through. But these are 3 here. 1, 3, 4. C. 99. Which of the following statements is correct about United Nations Forum on Forest? It is an intergovernmental policy forum which promotes management, conservation. That's correct. It was established by UN Economic and Social Council on the basis of Rio Declaration. Correct. This forum has large membership, and of course all large membership, almost universal membership, but not WTO. All the members of UNO are member of it, not WTO. So 1 and 2. D. The last question here, Mary Life portal was introduced recently. This portal encourages users to participate in a series of life-related tasks under few themes. In this regard, consider following themes: save energy, save water, reduce greenhouse emissions. That's correct. That's correct. But this is not there. Reduction of single-use plastic is one of the options. This is there. Adopt healthy lifestyle is correct. So there are 5 parameters here, but 5th one is reducing use of single-use plastics. Only 4 here. So, dear students, this was a discussion of your polity and constitution test paper. I hope you have got to know the right options and the reasons behind that option. I hope all the doubts related to the test paper have been cleared. But still, if you face any difficulty, if you have any further query, you can always connect to me through teacher support, or you can come and visit me here in the office. I'm always here to help you. So keep moving, keep walking ahead, and all the best.